Welcome to Heartfire Obsession. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. The text message arrived at 11:47 p.m. and Natalie Chen's world ended before midnight. Your husband is at the Grandview Hotel. Room 412. Thought you should know. A friend. She stared at the glowing screen of her phone, her hand trembling so violently that the words blurred. Marcus was supposed to be in Chicago for a medical conference. He was a surgeon, brilliant and dedicated, or so she'd believed for the past 5 years of marriage. He'd kissed her goodbye that morning, his hand lingering on her cheek, his brown eyes warm with what she'd thought was love. "I'll miss you," he'd whispered. 3 days feels like forever. The Grandview Hotel was 15 minutes from their house. Natalie's heart hammered against her ribs as she threw on jeans and a sweater, her mind racing through 1,000 explanations that might make this okay. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone was playing a cruel joke. Maybe Marcus had a perfectly reasonable explanation for being at a local hotel when he was supposed to be 800 miles away. But deep in her gut, in that place where women know things they wish they didn't, she already understood the truth. The drive that changed everything the autumn night was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and makes you feel like you'll never be warm again. Natalie's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white as she drove through empty streets, past houses where happy families slept peacefully, unaware that in one of those houses a woman's entire life was crumbling. She'd met Marcus 7 years ago at a hospital fundraiser. He'd been charming, attentive, with a smile that made her feel like the only woman in the room. Their courtship had been a whirlwind of expensive dinners, weekend getaways, and promises of a beautiful future. He'd proposed on a beach in Maui, the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and she'd said yes without hesitation. They'd been happy, or she'd thought they were happy. The Grandview Hotel loomed ahead, its elegant facade mocking her with its luxury. Natalie parked in the back lot, her breath coming in short, painful gasps. She sat in the darkness for a moment, giving Marcus one last chance to be innocent. One last chance for this to be a misunderstanding. Her phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number. 4th floor. They've been there since 8 p.m. "I'm sorry." The elevator ride to hell. The hotel lobby was nearly empty. Just a bored night clerk who barely glanced up as Natalie crossed to the elevators. She caught her reflection in the polished doors. 32 years old. Dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her face pale and stricken. She looked like a ghost. She felt like one. The elevator climbed with agonizing slowness. 2nd floor. 3rd floor. 4th floor. The doors slid open with a soft ding that sounded like a death knell. Room 412 was at the end of a long, carpeted hallway. With each step, Natalie felt herself fragmenting, pieces of her identity falling away like autumn leaves. She was a wife. She was loved. She was building a life with someone she trusted, each belief shattered with every footfall. She stood outside the door, her hand raised to knock, when she heard it. Laughter. A woman's laughter, bright and carefree, followed by Marcus's deep voice, intimate and warm in a way that made Natalie's stomach turn. "God, I needed this," Marcus said. 3 more days of pretending would have killed me." The woman giggled. "Poor baby. Is it really that hard being married to her? You have no idea. But it won't be much longer. The prenup has a 5-year clause. After that, I get half of everything her father built. Just 1 more year, and we're free." The truth behind the door. Natalie's vision went white at the edges. Her father. Her father's real estate empire, the business he'd spent 40 years building, the legacy he'd entrusted to her. The prenup had been his idea, his way of protecting what he'd built. If the marriage lasted 5 years, Marcus would be entitled to half her inheritance. They'd been married for 4 years and 7 months. She'd thought Marcus had insisted on no prenup because he loved her, because he was insulted by the suggestion that their marriage might fail. But her father had been firm, and Marcus had eventually agreed, though he'd sulked for weeks. Now she understood why. Her hand found the door handle. It was unlocked. She pushed it open slowly, quietly, and the scene that greeted her was worse than anything she could have imagined. Marcus was on the bed, shirtless, his arm around a blonde woman who couldn't have been older than 25. The woman was wearing one of Marcus's shirts, her legs bare, her head resting on his chest. But it was the woman's face that made Natalie's blood run cold. The sister she thought she knew. "Hello, Natalie," said Veronica Chen, Natalie's younger half-sister, with a smile that held no remorse, only triumph. The room spun. Natalie grabbed the doorframe to keep from falling. Veronica, her father's daughter from his second marriage, the sister she'd helped through college, the sister she'd given a job at her company, the sister she'd trusted with her secrets and her pain. Marcus sat up, and for a moment, something flickered across his face, surprise, maybe even guilt. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by cold calculation. "I guess we're done pretending," he said, his voice flat and emotionless, so different from the warm tone he used when they were alone. Or when she'd thought they were alone. Natalie found her voice, though it came out as a broken whisper. "How long? Does it matter?" Veronica stretched like a cat, deliberately provocative. "Face it, Nat, you were never enough for him. You're too boring, too serious, too obsessed with your father's company." Marcus needed someone who understood him. Someone exciting. 2 years, Marcus said, standing and reaching for his pants. "Since your father's 60th birthday party. Remember how you got drunk and passed out early? Veronica and I got to know each other. 2 years. 2 years of lies, of pretending, of him touching her while thinking of her sister. 2 years of family dinners where Veronica smiled at her across the table while sleeping with her husband behind her back. Why?" The question was all Natalie could manage. Veronica laughed, that same bright, carefree sound that had once made Natalie smile. "Why not? You have everything, Natalie. Daddy's favorite, the successful one, the golden child. I'm just the mistake from the second marriage, remember? But guess what? In 7 months, Marcus and I will have half of everything you have. And there's nothing you can do about it." The weapon in her purse, Natalie's hand, moved to her purse automatically, fingers closing around the small digital recorder she'd brought to interview a contractor earlier that day. She'd forgotten to take it out. She pressed record, her fingers shaking, as Marcus continued talking. "Look, Natalie, let's be adults about this. You're smart enough to see how this plays out. We can do this the easy way. You file for divorce now. We split according to the prenup's 4-year terms, and you keep most of your money. Or we can wait 7 months, and Veronica and I take half of everything. Your choice, you bastard." The words came out stronger now, fueled by a rage so pure it burned away the shock. "You married me for money. You never loved me." Marcus shrugged. "Love is a fairy tale, Natalie. This is business, and honestly, you should have seen it coming. Why would someone like me marry someone like you without a good reason?" The words hit like physical blows. Someone like me. Plain Natalie. Boring Natalie. Not exciting enough. Not pretty enough. Not enough. But as she stood there, recording every cruel word, every laugh, every casual destruction of her life, something shifted inside her. The pain began to crystallize into something harder, something sharper, something dangerous. "You're right," she said slowly, her voice steady now. "I should have seen it coming." She turned and walked away, ignoring their surprised faces, ignoring Marcus calling after her. She walked down the hallway, into the elevator, through the lobby, and out into the cold autumn night. In her purse, the recorder captured every word, every confession, every detail of their 2-year affair and their plan to steal half her inheritance. And as Natalie sat in her car, watching the hotel through tear-blurred eyes, she made a decision. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they were about to learn that Natalie Chen was her father's daughter in more ways than one. And she never lost. What will Natalie do with the recording? How far will she go for revenge? Heartbreak and revenge. The morning after the world ended, Natalie didn't sleep. She sat at her kitchen table until dawn, the recorder playing on repeat, each word cutting deeper than the last. By the time the sun rose, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that mocked her devastation, she'd listened to the recording 17 times. And she'd made a plan. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "We need to talk. Come home so we can discuss this rationally. She almost laughed. Home. As if the place she'd carefully decorated, the house she'd imagined raising children in, could ever be home again. She texted back, "Take your time in Chicago. We'll talk when you get back." Let him think she was broken. Let him think she'd crumble and accept defeat. The father who built an empire at 8 a.m. Natalie walked into her father's downtown office, her face carefully composed, her eyes hidden behind sunglasses. Richard Chen was behind his desk reviewing contracts when she entered. He looked up, his weathered face breaking into a smile that died the moment he saw her expression. "Natalie, what's wrong?" She closed the door, locked it, and placed the recorder on his desk. "You were right about Marcus," she said quietly. "You were right about everything." She pressed play. Richard Chen's face transformed as he listened. The successful businessman who'd built an empire from nothing, who'd survived betrayal and hardship and every obstacle the world could throw at him, looked suddenly old. When Veronica's voice came through the speaker, laughing about taking half his life's work, his hands clenched into fists. "I'll kill him," he said quietly when it finished. "I'll destroy them both." "No." Natalie's voice was steel. "This is my fight, Dad. But I need your help." The plan that would break them over the next 3 hours, father and daughter crafted a plan that was as ruthless as it was perfect. Richard made phone calls, pulled strings, called in favors from 40 years of business relationships. Natalie took notes, her mind working through every detail, every potential complication. "The prenup has a morality clause," Richard said, reading through the document his lawyer had drafted years ago. "If either party commits adultery, they forfeit all financial claims. But you need proof that stands up in court." "I have proof." Natalie gestured to the recorder. "But I need more. I need to make sure they can never recover from this." Richard smiled, and it wasn't kind. "Then let's give them exactly what they want. Let them think they've won." The fake surrender that afternoon, Natalie called Marcus. She let her voice shake, let herself sound defeated and small. "You're right," she whispered. "I've been thinking about what you said. Maybe we should talk about the divorce. I don't want this to get ugly." She could hear the triumph in his voice. "I'm glad you're being reasonable about this, Nat. I'll be home tomorrow. We can sit down with lawyers and work something out. Actually," she said carefully, "what if we did it without lawyers? Just divide things fairly between us. I don't want to drag this out." There was a pause. She could almost hear his greedy mind calculating. "You'd do that?" "I just want it over, Marcus. Maybe we can even part as friends," he agreed immediately, barely containing his excitement. After all, without lawyers, there'd be no one to point out the morality clause, no one to examine the prenup too closely. He'd get his half of everything. Or so he thought. The sister secret that evening, Natalie invited Veronica to lunch. She chose a quiet restaurant, one where they'd shared countless meals over the years. Veronica arrived looking triumphant, her designer bag, a gift from Natalie last Christmas, swinging from her shoulder. "I'm surprised you wanted to see me," Veronica said, settling into her chair with a smug smile. "I thought you'd be too devastated." Natalie sipped her water, her face carefully neutral. "I've had time to think. Maybe you and Marcus are right for each other. Maybe I was too focused on work to be a good wife." Veronica's eyes widened slightly. She'd expected anger, tears, a fight. This calm acceptance clearly confused her. "That's surprisingly mature of you," Veronica said cautiously. "We're sisters," Natalie said softly. "Blood is thicker than water, right? And I've been thinking, maybe you deserve happiness too. Dad always did favor me. Maybe I owe you this." It was exactly what Veronica wanted to hear. Her guard dropped, her tongue loosened by wine and victory. "You have no idea what it was like," Veronica said, leaning forward. "Growing up in your shadow. The perfect Natalie. The smart one. The successful one. Dad bought you a car for your 16th birthday. You know what I got? A gift card. I didn't know you felt that way," Natalie lied. "Of course you didn't." Veronica's voice was bitter now, the wine working through her system. "You never noticed anything beyond your perfect little life. So when Marcus came to me 2 years ago, when he told me he'd only married you for money, When he said he wanted someone exciting, I didn't even hesitate. Natalie's phone was on the table, recording every word. It must have been difficult, Natalie prompted gently, keeping it secret. Veronica laughed. It was thrilling. Every family dinner, watching you smile at him, completely clueless. Every night he told you he loved you, knowing he'd be texting me the moment you fell asleep. She leaned back, her expression vicious. And the best part? In 7 months, we'll have enough money to disappear. Maybe to Italy. Marcus has always wanted to live in Tuscany. With my father's money. With my share of the family money, Veronica corrected. It's not my fault Dad decided to leave everything to you in his will, but after Marcus gets his half of your inheritance through the divorce, and I get my cut, well, maybe things will finally be fair. The meeting that changed everything the next day, Marcus returned home. Natalie had set the scene perfectly, tissues on the coffee table, her eyes deliberately red from rubbing, her shoulders slumped in defeat. She looked broken. She wasn't. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly when he walked in. "I know this is hard for both of us." Marcus sat down, and she saw the calculation in his eyes, the greed barely hidden beneath a mask of false concern. "I never wanted to hurt you, Natalie. Sometimes things just don't work out." "I know." She handed him a folder. "I had my assistant draw up a simple division of assets. No lawyers, just like we discussed. You'll get half of everything, and we can both move on with our lives." He opened the folder, trying to hide his excitement. Inside was a document that would give him millions, half her inheritance, half the value of their house, half of everything she owned. "This is very generous," he said carefully. "Are you sure you want to do this without legal counsel?" "I just want it over," she whispered. "Please, Marcus, can we just end this quickly?" He reached for a pen. "There's just one thing," Natalie said, her voice still soft and broken. "I need you to admit it. I need to hear you say that you never loved me, that it was always about the money. I need closure." Marcus paused, pen hovering over the signature line. Then he shrugged. What did it matter now? She was beaten. "Fine," he said. "I never loved you, Natalie. From the moment your father mentioned his estate at that fundraiser, I knew what I had to do. Marry you, wait out the prenup, take half, and leave. It was always about the money. Every kiss, every I love you, every promise, it was all calculated. You were just a means to an end." "And Veronica?" "She was convenient, pretty, willing, and she hated you enough to help me without asking questions. She thinks we're going to run away together." He laughed, as if I'd trade up from a boring rich woman to a boring woman without money. Natalie's expression didn't change. "Thank you for your honesty." She reached into her purse and placed the recorder on the table between them. The color drained from Marcus's face. "The trap snap shut you recorded me?" His voice rose, panic replacing confidence. "That's illegal. You can't use that in court." "Actually," said a voice from the doorway, "in this state, only one party needs to consent to a recording. And since Natalie was present for every conversation, these recordings are perfectly legal." Richard Chen walked in, followed by 2 lawyers and a private investigator. "Dad," Natalie said calmly, "I'd like you to meet Dr. Marcus Hayes, who married your daughter with the intention of defrauding her. And these gentlemen are here to witness his confession." Marcus stood, his face mottled with rage. "You bitch, you played me." "I learned from the best," Natalie said, standing to face him. "My father didn't build an empire by being stupid. Did you really think I'd just roll over and let you steal everything?" One of the lawyers stepped forward. "Dr. Hayes, according to the prenuptial agreement you signed, infidelity voids all financial claims. We have recordings of you confessing to a 2-year affair with Miss Veronica Chen, as well as admitting to marrying Mrs. Hayes under false pretenses with the intent to defraud. Furthermore," the second lawyer added, "wire fraud, conspiracy to commit theft, and several other charges are being filed with the district attorney's office as we speak." Marcus lunged toward Natalie, but the private investigator, a former cop built like a linebacker, stepped between them. "Don't," he said quietly. "You're already in enough trouble." The sister's downfall, what about Veronica? Natalie asked her father, her voice cold. Already taken care of, Richard said grimly. She was terminated from her position at Chen Enterprises this morning. Her apartment, which we pay for, will be vacated by the end of the week. And I'm removing her from my will effective immediately. You can't do this, Marcus shouted. I'm a respected surgeon. I have rights. You're a fraud who married my daughter for money, Richard said flatly. And by tomorrow morning, every hospital administrator in the state will know it. Your medical license will be under review for ethics violations. Your reputation will be destroyed, and you'll spend the next several years fighting criminal charges with whatever public defender you can afford. He turned to Natalie, his expression softening. Unless my daughter wants to show mercy, all eyes turned to her. Marcus's face transformed, cycling through anger to desperation to pleading. Nat, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Please don't do this. Natalie looked at him. This man she'd shared her bed with, her life with, her dreams with. This man who'd never loved her, who'd used her, who'd planned to steal everything her father had built. Do you remember what you asked me last night? She said quietly. You asked if I was sure I wanted to do this without lawyers, if I was sure I wanted to end this quickly. She picked up the unsigned divorce papers and tore them in half. I've changed my mind. This is going to be slow, public, and devastating. And when it's over, you won't have a career, a reputation, or a single dollar of my family's money. She turned to her father. File everything, all of it. Wait. Marcus grabbed her arm. Natalie, please. I'll disappear. I'll leave town. Just don't destroy me. She pulled her arm free and looked at him with eyes as cold as winter. You destroyed yourself the moment you underestimated me. You wanted to play games with my life? Congratulations, you just lost. But Marcus and Veronica aren't ready to give up yet, and their next move will push Natalie to her limits. Continue to part 3 for the shocking conclusion. The ultimate payback the threat in the darkness. 3 days after Marcus's world began crumbling, Natalie received a text at 2 a.m. that made her blood run cold. You think you've won? There are things about your father you don't know. Things that could destroy everything he built. Withdraw the charges, or we go public. She sat up in bed, her heart racing. Her father had built his empire from nothing, working 18-hour days, taking risks, making deals. In 40 years of business, there had to be things, secrets, decisions, compromises that wouldn't look good in today's light. A second text came through, this time from Veronica. Check your email. That's just a preview. Dad wasn't always the saint you think he was. With trembling hands, Natalie opened her laptop. The email contained a single document, a contract from 1997, before digital records, bearing her father's signature. It appeared to show him bribing a city official to fast-track a development permit. Her phone rang. Marcus. Did you get it? His voice was cold, controlled, nothing like the panicked man from 3 days ago. That's just one document. We have others. Veronica's been collecting them for years, photocopying files when she worked at your company. Tax irregularities, questionable deals, things that might not be illegal but would destroy your father's reputation if they came out. You're blacking me now? Natalie's voice was steady, though her mind was racing. I'm giving you a choice, Marcus corrected. Withdraw the charges, give me $10 million, and these documents stay buried. Refuse, and I'll release everything to the press, the ears, and anyone else who will listen. Your father might survive legally, but his reputation will be ruined. Chen Enterprises will lose clients. Stockholders will panic. Everything he built will crumble. Natalie was silent, calculating. You have 24 hours, Marcus said, and hung up. The father's secret at dawn, Natalie drove to her father's house. She found him in his study, already awake, staring out the window at the garden her mother had planted before she died. Dad, she said quietly, we need to talk about 1997. His shoulders tensed. What about it? She showed him the document. His face went gray. It's not what it looks like, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Then tell me what it is. Richard Chen sank into his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 68 years. That was the Riverside development. I needed that permit to keep the company afloat. We were leveraged to the breaking point. If that deal had fallen through, I would have lost everything. The business, our house, your college fund. There was a city councilman who was blocking it for political reasons. So yes, I paid him $25,000 to just move the paperwork along. Did you know Veronica had been collecting dirt on you? No. His voice was bitter. I trusted her. I gave her a job, included her in family meetings, tried to make up for the fact that I wasn't there for her childhood after her mother and I divorced. And she was gathering evidence to blackmail us all along. They want $10 million to keep quiet. Richard stood abruptly. Absolutely not. I won't give them a penny. If it comes out, it comes out. I'll face the consequences. Dad, this could destroy everything you built, your reputation, the company, the legacy you wanted to leave. I don't care. His voice was fierce. I won't teach you that blackmail works. I won't show you that cowardice is acceptable. And I sure as hell won't reward the people who tried to steal from my daughter. He gripped her shoulders. Some things are worth more than reputation, Natalie. Integrity is one of them. You stand up to them. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. The dangerous decision, but as Natalie drove home, her mind kept working. There had to be another way. A way to protect her father and still make Marcus and Veronica pay for what they'd done. She called the private investigator her father had hired, a woman named Sarah Chen who had 20 years of experience with the FBI before going private. Tell me everything you found on Marcus Hayes, Natalie said. What Sarah revealed over the next hour was disturbing. Marcus's medical career was impressive on the surface, but there were complaints. 3 malpractice suits settled quietly out of court. Questions about his treatment of female patients. Whispers of inappropriate behavior that never quite crossed the line into illegal, but painted a picture of someone who viewed others as objects to be used. What about Veronica? Your sister is in deeper financial trouble than you know, Sarah said. Credit cards maxed out. Loans from questionable sources. She's been living beyond her means for years, and Marcus was her ticket out. Without him, and without your father's money, she's looking at bankruptcy. An idea began forming in Natalie's mind. Dangerous, ethically questionable, but potentially perfect. The counter-blackmail Natalie called Marcus. I have a counteroffer. You're in no position to negotiate. Neither are you. While you were busy collecting dirt on my father, I was collecting dirt on you. Did you know I had a private investigator looking into your background? A pause. What did you find? Enough. Medical malpractice settlements, sexual harassment complaints, and something particularly interesting, a former girlfriend who filed a restraining order against you in 2015. She's willing to talk now, Marcus. She's willing to go on record about your controlling behavior, your manipulation, your threats when she tried to leave. You're bluffing. Am I? Her name is Jennifer Morrison. She lives in Seattle now. And she's been waiting for someone to finally expose you for what you are. Natalie let the silence stretch before continuing. Here's my offer. You surrender all the documents you and Veronica collected. You sign a legally binding agreement never to contact me, my father, or anyone in my family again. And in exchange, I won't release Jennifer's testimony to the medical board, the hospital where you work, and every journalist I know. That's extortion. No, that's negotiation. You started this game, Marcus. I'm just playing better than you. And what about Veronica? She gets the same deal. Silence for silence. She returns every document, signs the agreement, and I won't destroy her the way she tried to destroy us. She won't agree. She hates you too much. Then she can enjoy bankruptcy and being cut off from the family forever. Her choice. The meeting that ended everything they met in a lawyer's office, neutral ground. Marcus and Veronica on one side, Natalie and her father on the other. 2 lawyers sat at the head of the table, documents spread between them. Veronica looked terrible, her designer clothes rumpled, her eyes hollow. Marcus was better at hiding his desperation, but Natalie could see it in the tension around his mouth, the way his hands clenched and unclenched on the armrests. All the documents, Natalie said. Every photo, every photocopy, every digital file. Turn it all over, and this ends. And in exchange, Veronica's voice was hoarse. You walk away. No criminal charges for the blackmail attempt. Dad won't pursue civil action. You just disappear from our lives. That's it? Marcus was suspicious. That's too easy. It's not easy, Richard spoke for the first time, his voice heavy. You're walking away with nothing. No money, no reputation, no future in this city. Every bridge is burned. Every door is closed. You'll spend the rest of your lives looking over your shoulders, wondering if we changed our minds. He leaned forward. And if you ever try to contact my daughter again, if I hear either of your names in connection with my family or my business, I will use every resource I have to destroy you. Do you understand? They understood. The documents were turned over, the agreements were signed, and just like that, it was over. Almost. The real revenge as Marcus and Veronica stood to leave, Natalie spoke one last time. There's something you should know. That document from 1997, the one showing my father bribing a city official? Marcus turned back, suspicious. It was fake. Well, not entirely fake. The contract was real. But that line item about the payment? Dad showed me the original this morning. Someone altered it digitally and printed it on period-appropriate paper. Very sophisticated. Almost fooled our forensic accountant. Veronica's face went white. But I found it in the files. No. You found it where I planted it 3 years ago, Natalie said calmly. Do you remember when you started working for Chen Enterprises? I was reorganizing the archives. I created several fake documents and hid them in the old files, just little tests to see if anyone was digging where they shouldn't be. When that document went missing, I knew someone was collecting information on Dad. She smiled, and it wasn't kind. I've known about your little insurance policy for 3 years, Veronica. Every document you copied, every file you photocopied, I knew. I fed you false information, altered real documents so they'd look suspicious but wouldn't actually hold up under scrutiny. Your entire blackmail scheme was built on lies I created specifically for you. Marcus grabbed Veronica's arm. Is this true? Every document we have is fake? Not every document, Natalie corrected. But enough that if you'd actually gone public, you would have been the ones facing charges for filing false reports and defamation. You would have destroyed yourselves. The color drained from Marcus's face as he realized the truth. They'd never had any leverage. The entire time they thought they were playing Natalie, she'd been playing them. You set us up, Veronica whispered. From the beginning. No, Natalie said. You set yourselves up. I just gave you enough rope to hang yourselves with. The affair, the blackmail, the threats, those were all your choices. I just made sure that no matter what you did, I'd be ready. The freedom in letting go after they left, after the lawyers finished their paperwork and filed away the signed agreements, Natalie stood on the sidewalk outside the office building, breathing in the cool autumn air. Her father joined her. You planned all of this, even before you knew about Marcus? Not all of it. But when I started working at Chen Enterprises, I realized how vulnerable we were. All that wealth, all those assets, we were targets. So I started taking precautions. The fake documents were just one layer. There were others. You're more like me than I realized, Richard said, and there was pride in his voice mixed with something that might have been concern. But Natalie, be careful. This kind of thinking, this level of strategic defense, it can consume you. It can make you see enemies everywhere. Maybe, Natalie admitted. But it also saved us. Marcus and Veronica almost won, Dad. If I hadn't been prepared, if I hadn't planned for betrayal, they would have taken everything. At what cost? Her father's voice was gentle. You've spent 3 years waiting for betrayal. Living in a marriage while knowing it was built on lies. That's no way to live, sweetheart. Natalie was quiet for a long moment. Maybe not, but I survived. And now I'm free. The unexpected visitor 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday morning that felt like any other, Natalie was in her office when her assistant buzzed. There's someone here to see you. He says it's important. His name is David Park. Natalie didn't recognize the name, but something made her say, "Send him in." The man who entered was about her age, well-dressed in a casual way, with kind eyes and an apologetic smile. "Miss Chen, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm not sure if you remember me. We met briefly at a fundraiser about 7 years ago, right before you met Marcus Hayes." She studied him, searching her memory. "I'm sorry, I don't. We talked for about 20 minutes about your father's work in sustainable development. You were passionate about green building,